A $19 Chinese AI model has triggered the biggest price panic since DeepSeek. Kimi K3 claims frontier-level coding, native vision, a 1 million token context window, and an API that can cost half as much as OpenAI's strongest model. So the obvious question is, should you cancel ChatGPT Plus? Not yet. The internet is mixing together three completely different things: a consumer subscription, API token prices, and model weights that have not even been released yet. Kimi K3 is important, but not for the reason most thumbnails are shouting. By the end of this video, I will show you where K3 is genuinely disruptive, what the hype leaves out, and which kind of user should actually switch. Moonshot AI announced Kimi K3 on July 16th. On paper, it is enormous. 2.8 trillion total parameters, with 16 of 896 experts active for each token. It can see images, work across a 1 million token context window, and operate inside Kimi's chat, coding, and workplace products. Moonshot calls it the first open 3 trillion class model. That description needs an asterisk. The company says the full weights will arrive on July 27th. I am recording this before that date, so nobody outside Moonshot can yet inspect the promised release, test the license, or confirm what open will mean in practice. That does not make K3 fake. It makes the correct phrase promised open weights, not fully open source. This distinction sounds fussy until you remember how often the AI industry announces a future capability and lets the headline do several days of free marketing before the evidence arrives. What is already available is the hosted product. K3 can power chat, coding, and agent-style work, and Moonshot's own launch material shows it building interfaces, working with very long documents and coordinating complex tasks. Those demonstrations are impressive. They are also company demonstrations. A benchmark screenshot is not the same thing as living with a product on a Tuesday afternoon when the deadline is real and the undo button is not. Now we get to the number that made everyone pay attention. $19. Kimi's entry membership, called Moderato, is $19 a month. ChatGPT Plus is $20. That is not a price earthquake. It is a $1 difference. And the plans do not buy the same thing. Kimi uses a shared credit pool across K3, Kimi Work, Kimi Code, and its other agent features. The cheaper K2.6 chat remains free, but K3 consumes credits. OpenAI's Plus plan gives access to GPT 5.6, Soul at medium and high reasoning levels, alongside voice, image generation, deep research, file tools, and codecs, all with their own usage limits. So if somebody tells you Kimi is half the price of ChatGPT, ask what they are comparing. At the consumer level, it is $19 versus $20. Practically the same. The real price war is in the API. K3 lists uncached input at $3 per million tokens and output at $15. GPT 5.6 Soul lists input at $5 and output at $30. On those published rates, K3 input is 40% cheaper, and output is 50% cheaper. That matters to a developer processing millions of tokens. It may mean almost nothing to a normal person paying for a chat app. There is another complication. OpenAI's smaller GPT 5.6, Terra costs $2.50 for input and $15 for output. In other words, K3 is not automatically cheaper than every OpenAI model. It is cheaper than its Soul on the price card, while Terra matches its output price and beats its uncached input price. Model comparison becomes dishonest the moment we pretend price, intelligence, and product experience are one number. So what is K3 actually good at? The strongest signal appears to be front-end coding and long, multi-step work. Public coding leaderboards showed K3 performing near the top after release, and the model's enormous context window is designed for projects where the instructions, files, and history would overwhelm a smaller system. Moonshot says its mixture of experts design activates only a small fraction of the model for each token. That is how a system with trillions of total parameters can avoid using all of them for every word. The company also claims more than a 90% cache hit rate in coding workloads, which would make the 30-cent cached input price especially powerful. But remember the wording. Moonshot says, vendor benchmarks are useful evidence, not a neutral verdict. I have not independently tested K3 in this video, because new subscriptions were temporarily paused after demand pushed the company's computing capacity close to its limit. Pretending I ran a secret test would make a more exciting video. It would also be a lie. The honest takeaway is that K3 has already done enough to change the negotiation. A serious near-frontier model no longer has to come from an American company, and it no longer has to accept the same price structure. That is why the industry is nervous. K3 does not need to beat GPT 5.6 at every task. It only needs to be good enough at half the API price for a large group of developers to ask why they are paying more. The hype also hides 4 real problems. First, capacity. Kimi posted a notice on July 20th saying new plans were not currently available for purchase because of computing constraints. Existing subscribers were protected, but a cheap plan you cannot buy is not yet a reliable business platform. Second, limits. A $19 membership does not mean unlimited K3. The credits are shared across chat, coding, workplace tools, and swarm features. Heavy users can burn through value much faster than the headline price suggests. Third, the waits are still a promise. If the July 27th release arrives with a practical license and usable deployment tools, it could be a major event. Until then, the open part of the story belongs in the future tense. Fourth, Moonshot's own launch post admits the overall experience still trails Claude Fable 5 and GPT 5.6 Soul. It also warns that K3 can be sensitive to its reasoning history and overly proactive, sometimes making decisions the user did not expect. That last problem deserves more attention. An agent that takes initiative looks magical in a demo. In real work, initiative without predictability can mean changed files, wrong assumptions, or an afternoon spent finding out what the model decided on your behalf. Cheap intelligence is valuable. Cheap unpredictability is just a lower-priced problem. Does that mean ChatGPT Plus is still the automatic choice? No. OpenAI has a different advantage. The model is only one part of the product. A Plus subscriber can move from research to file analysis, voice image generation, and coding without stitching together several services. That integration is easy to undervalue because it is difficult to put on a benchmark chart. For a non-technical user, the best tool is often the one that removes the most friction, not the one with the best token price. $20 for a product you use every day can be cheaper than $19 for a product that constantly asks you to manage credits, switch tools, or work around capacity. But OpenAI should not feel comfortable. K3 makes premium pricing harder to defend, particularly for developers. If the promised weights arrive and the community can run, fine-tune and inspect them, Moonshot gains something. OpenAI cannot reproduce with a small subscription discount. An ecosystem of people improving the model outside the company. My view is that ChatGPT's moat is no longer simply, we have the smartest model. The moat is distribution, trust, tools, and habit. Those are strong advantages, but they can erode if competitors become good enough and noticeably cheaper. DeepSeek taught the market that training efficiency could surprise the largest labs. Kimi K3 is teaching it that frontier scale capability can become a pricing weapon. Here's the decision I would make today. If you're a developer with a high-volume coding or document workflow, K3 deserves a serious trial once access is available. Run the same real task through K3, GPT 5.6, Terra, and Sol. Measure the cost, completion rate, corrections, and time to a usable result. Do not choose from one vendor chart or one YouTuber's game demo. If you're an ordinary ChatGPT Plus user who relies on voice, images, deep research, file tools, and codecs, I would not cancel because of this launch. The $1 subscription difference is meaningless, and Kimi's current capacity problem makes a full switch premature. If you are mostly chatting and asking simple questions, the smartest financial decision may be neither subscription. Use the free tiers until a paid feature saves enough time to justify the bill. And if privacy or control is the reason you care about K3, wait for the actual weights and license. Open soon is not the same as a model you can responsibly deploy today. This is the boring decision framework that viral AI videos rarely offer. Compare the complete workflow, not the most flattering screenshot. The cheapest model is not the one with the lowest token price. It is the one that reaches a correct, usable answer with the least total waste. The bigger story is not that Kimi K3 killed ChatGPT. It did not. The bigger story is that the expected price of advanced AI is falling faster than the expected price of almost any other professional tool. Every time a credible competitor cuts that price, the largest labs must explain what their premium buys. That pressure is good for users. It can also create a dangerous race where companies subsidize usage, attract millions of people, and then tighten limits after habits are formed. We should celebrate lower prices without confusing promotional economics with sustainable economics. I also think we are entering a period where model loyalty makes less sense. You do not need to support an AI company like a football team. Use the strongest product for research, the cheapest reliable model for volume, and an open model when control matters. Make the companies compete for every workload. For now, Kimi K3 is a warning shot, not a coronation. It has credible technical ambition, aggressive API pricing, and a promised open weight release. It also has limited capacity, shared membership credits, and an experience its own creator says still has ground to make up. That is a much more interesting story than ChatGPT is dead. The official product links are below. They do not change the price, and at the time of recording, this channel does not receive a commission from them. If that ever changes, it will be disclosed clearly. What would make you switch? An API that costs half as much weights you can run yourself, or a smoother product that simply works? Tell me which one matters most. This is Machine and Margin, where we look past the AI headline and ask what the technology is really worth.